Hello and welcome to another Motors.co.uk new car review. Now the car we're going to be looking at today is the electrified Subaru XV e-Boxer. But before we dive in and see what it's like, please remember to leave a like on this video, comment below to tell us what you think of the Subaru e-Boxer, and don't forget to subscribe to the Motors.co.uk channel where you can hit that bell icon and it'll notify you each and every time we upload a new video. The Subaru XV was launched back in 2017 and it brought Subaru's own take on the crossover segment with this chunky off-road ready offering. So why are we looking at this one today? Well, this is the e-Boxer version, which means that there's now a hybrid powertrain running underneath the XV's body. But how does an electrified Subaru do out on the road? Well, that's what we're here today to find out. The XV has that adventure-ready look that buyers in this class will love, which is helped no end by the relatively high ride height and chunky black wheel arch trims. It's quite a compact car, yet it manages to get that big car feel thanks to that look at me styling. We're not entirely sold on this paint colour, however, and think that the XV would look a whole lot better in more muted shades. Subaru's go anywhere, no nonsense approach to cars is reflected in the interior of the XV. There's not too many buttons, it's all relatively clear and easy to use, but it's backed up by feeling just very solid once you're in it. There's some nice orange stitching which contrasts with these rubberized materials up top to make it feel just a little more go anywhere than you'd expect of a car of this type. And then in the middle of the car you've got this large central infotainment screen which has satellite navigation and media functions as well as Apple CarPlay for your smartphone. And above that is a secondary screen which showcases information about the hybrid powertrain. More than anything, it just looks really cool when you're driving along to see where the energy is flowing between the battery and the motor itself. Overall, it's just a very well executed cabin. Thankfully, the hybrid powertrain doesn't intrude on the XV's boot space, and that means you get 345 litres of boot area to play with. That's slightly behind key rivals, but it still means that there's more than enough space for several large bags or some shopping. The XV e-Boxer uses a 2-litre flat-4 engine with 148 brake horsepower, which is then linked to a small electric motor and batteries. It means that at lower speeds the XV can run on electric power alone, though at higher speeds the petrol engine will be called upon. Power drives to all four wheels through a CVT gearbox, and getting to 60 miles an hour from a dead stop will take just over 10 seconds. Subaru claims 35.7 mpg combined and emissions of 149 grams of CO2 per kilometre. If you're expecting to come to the Subaru XV e-Boxer and get in and drive around silently on all-electric power for most of your driving commute, then you're going to be sorely disappointed. It can't do what plug-in hybrids do and go around for say 20 or 30 miles on all-electric power alone, leaving you with the engine completely untroubled. That's not the type of car that it is. However, that e-Power does come in at lower speeds, so when you're creeping away from the lights or when you're driving around a car park, for instance, it will then run on electric power. For everything else, that engine is going to be troubled and it's going to be coming into play. Now, because it does use a CVT gearbox, there's quite a lot of whine when you step hard on the accelerator. Now, Subaru has tried to engineer some steps into the gearbox to give the feeling of a traditional automatic gearbox, but that doesn't stop it from flaring up when you go anywhere near the accelerator. And that means that when you're joining traffic or when you're just wanting to make an overtake, it's quite loud and it's quite noisy in the cabin. And that makes it not very refined and not very relaxing. However, there are some good points elsewhere. The steering has some nice weight to it and it's relatively accurate, while the body control is good too. It's quite firm, but that does mean that going through the bends, there's not as much body roll as you'd expect, given the car's size and shape. Likewise, visibility out of the front is good thanks to these thin pillars, and the view out the back is good too. Subaru has fitted the XV with its eyesight range of assistance systems, and that means it incorporates things like lane departure control and emergency autonomous braking. It also means it gets predictive cruise control, so you set the car to a speed, it detects the car in front and it adjusts its speed depending on what that vehicle does. In practice, it works very well indeed, and it makes longer journeys fly by without the need to be constantly monitoring your speed because the car does it for you. At speeds at over 25 miles an hour, the engine is actively replenishing the amount of charges in the battery, so when you're travelling at greater speeds, the car itself is making sure that there's enough charge left in for later use. However, you're not really going to trouble the batteries too much, particularly if you're doing long motorway journeys. And this isn't a car for big trips or long cross-country jaunts. It's more about those shorter urban commutes where that EV power will mean that emissions are down and so is economy improved. The Subaru XV was an appealing prospect in the first place. It's chunky to look at, it's quite good off-road too, and it's relatively spacious inside. Now this hybrid version does broaden its appeal, and that means that people who did want an electrified Subaru now have an option. However, if you are looking for this type of car and cost is an issue, then we'd be more inclined to go for a standard two-wheel drive petrol version rather than this heavier and slightly less economical hybrid version. Thank you for watching this review of the Subaru XV e-Boxer. If you'd like to watch similar reviews of other electrified cars, then please follow the links coming up next.